evening. We're telling people you're alive. Good for that. Right, let's get some people involved. There we go. Right, there's the... Hello. There we go. Lovely stuff. Oh, hello. What are we looking at there? Let's get my on first.
Well, that's me.
That's oh,
That's
that
me.
is you, Dunk. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you doing well. You don't look like you're at death's door.
Oh man, that was horrendous on Sunday. Like, oh, honestly, I think I may have had a slight meltdown. That was bad. Like, I couldn't even sit up. It was just, the dizziness was horrendous. Like, my legs were just covered in this rash as well. Like, it's mental. We think that when we're on holiday, that because we get bit with the mosquitoes, that the COVID gave because our immune system was like obviously fucked with COVID, that the mosquito bites came back with a vengeance because my wife's covered in this rash as well. Like, it's brutal.
Oh.
But back to work on Monday.
Could you do me a favour? Could you send an invite out to Ashley Painslayer? Because I've tried doing it and it just said unable to join. I'm not too sure why.
Yeah.
Stupid internet.
Can I do that?
Well, like I say, as long as you're doing all right now, the main thing.
Can I send invites?
Yeah, should be able to. Let me try again. There we go. I'll send another one.
I'm going down to pick up that T-shirt on Friday, so I'll get those minis posted out to you that I said to you, sent to you before years ago.
This T-shirt, you mean? Look at this, nice and smooth. Here's the plug. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the pie. Just getting our plugs in. We are sponsored by Bolt Storm Wargaming up in Leek.
Why have you
Leek.
Why have you got the T-shirt on backwards?
It's the camera, innit? It's not me. I'm not. My name is Yasik. There you go. Not Casey. Yasik. That'll do.
Thanks very much for coming on, SJ. Really appreciate you being the second girl and first British-based person coming on. I really hope that you are. But thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Like, we're trying to get as much diversity as you can see. We've got Casey on every week, and he's actually on time this week as well, which is absolutely fantastic.
But it's because I was worried that the people that were usually in charge aren't making it, and then Dunk surprised me and said he's coming. It's like, oh, great. But it takes a bit of stress off me. Yeah, no, it's lovely to see you. Thank you for both coming on.
No worries.
Yeah. So right, Dunk, you take the lead. It's your baby. You go.
Right, so just want to say thanks for coming on, SJ Painter, and always thanks to Boltstorm Wargaming, or whatever you're called, for sponsoring the stream as always. So we always just ask the first question is, where did your hobby journey start, and how did you get into Warhammer or miniature painting?
It started probably around about like mid 1990s, about 95, 96, something like that. I actually started playing like Warcraft and Warcraft 2 off a demo disc that I got, and I got really into like the backstory and stuff of like the orcs and humans. And then one of my friends from my primary school brought in this book that they'd got from Games Workshop, which was the Chaos Dwarfs Codex. And after having a look through that, I was like, this is all the same thing as what's in Warcraft. I was like, and these are models that you can buy and paint? And then I ended up going out and buying them. Considering that I liked orcs and stuff like that first, my first army was actually dwarfs.
I mean, that's unusual. Was that the demo disc? Was it in the like PlayStation 1 or the?
Oh no, this was back when like they used to have like demo discs of like PC stuff on magazines.
Oh right, yeah.
Every PC game magazine that come out would always have a demo disc of like 5 different things on it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it had like Clock Tower 2 and like loads of really old games. Well,
I remember I had one of them.
New games at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one of those with Dungeon Keeper or something on it. Really old game. And I played that demo to absolute death. When my dad looked at me one day, he was like, "Do you want the full game?" I was like, "No, I just enjoyed the demo. I don't want the whole thing."
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the only games that I ever actually went out and bought the full game of because I loved the demo.
Yeah,
Kind
Warcraft
of like
2.
when it was kind of like Thursday night staple back in the mid-90s was watching Dominic Diamond and Games
Oh
Master,
yeah,
and like you'd be sitting waiting, praying every week that the wee guy that was coming on or the wee girl that came on would be asking for the cheat on the game that you were actually playing, and it never ever happened for me. It's always these obscure games. Games Master on level 17 of blah blah blah, and then Roger Moore would start giving like tips and tricks on how to beat some obscure boss in a game I've never heard of before.
yeah. But when it was the one that you wanted, you were like, shh, shh, everybody, shh.
Try to get a videotape to get to record it. Taping over your dad's fucking Alamo from the 1960s or something, and then getting battered to death with that said videotape.
I actually had a friend of a friend go on Games Master ages ago, like, and it wasn't an obscure game. It was Super Star Wars on the SNES, and it was just the most bizarre thing. Is like, oh, how do I beat this level? And yeah, you were right. Patrick Moore popped up. He's like, oh, well, just do the infinite life trick. That's all you need to do. And it's like, oh, right, okay, that's it. Just, but yeah, that is fond memories of bloody
Yeah,
Games Master.
I know,
So, like,
I know.
so like, when you started off, you must have been like a young, like as you say, in the early 90s. So, like, did many of your girlfriends participate? Did you find many people like in your circle of friends doing it, or were you just like the only one?
No, I think I was probably like the only girl. I was kind of tomboyish, I guess. I didn't have very many female friends. So I was sort of like all into like the fancy stuff, sci-fi, horror, all that type of stuff. So my friends weren't quite into that. So yeah, like going into Games Workshop stores, it was all boys and stuff that was there. I was probably like the only girl that ever went in, or that I saw ever going in anyway.
Did you
And
ever
they must
have
have,
it? I'm going to jump in here, Don, because I got memories of those stores and seeing a girl walk in, and it would just be awkward teenagers everywhere, and everyone would sort of go quiet, like, "There's a girl in here," and
Yeah,
it was so cringy.
I've
Think
got some
about it.
stories and stuff like that about the old Games Workshop stores and stuff. One of them, one of my friend walked in there, and she was looking for like some stuff for her boyfriend at the time, and the guy who was like the counter was like right near the door, saw her come in with like a shopping bags and stuff and said, "Are you in the wrong store, love?"
You know,
and for a girl, they must have been thinking that you're like maybe buying it for like your boyfriend or your brother or so. Like, what was the reaction like when you started buying stuff? Like the initial reaction, because obviously they would have get used to you getting in over time. But like, what was like the initial reactions of like you wanting to buy like dwarfs and the paints? Like, did they just like were they
Well,
perplexed
I
and stunned?
went in with my parents and stuff because, like I say, at the time, like '95 and stuff, I was quite young, so all the stuff I was buying was with like pocket money and stuff. So yeah, they spoke to my parents. They told me what was best, and I was like, no, no, I don't want to go for 40K. I want the tiny bearded men.
And we've got our own tiny bearded man who's literally wearing the Boltstorm
I,
Wargaming
I
t-shirt this
do not,
week.
I do not appreciate that, Dunk. I am 5'7". Fuck off. So I followed you for a long time on here. I think one of the first accounts I sort of started following when I joined up, and I've always been taken by how you just you paint anything.
Yeah.
You've got your, like I say, you love your dwarves. I've noticed that your orcs as well. You seem to be an absolute just sort of fearless painter. You'll jump in on anything. Do you find that it took a while to get to that sort of stage when you sort of look at the bigger models like your Kragnos that you're doing, for example, and the Sphinx that you did? Did you sort of find when you were growing into the hobby, doing the larger stuff was sort of like a challenge to yourself? Did it sort of, how did you sort of go from looking at one thing that's like that big to all of a sudden going to something like that big? How did you find the process of that worked?
Well, like I didn't really get back into Age of Sigmar and stuff until maybe about 6 years ago, something like that, which is shortly before I started the Instagram. And the scale of the models back then were very, very different. Like, I mean, I've got like a couple of miniatures and stuff by my side. Like that's your standard AOS troll, and like that's a dwarf from
Yeah.
fantasy. So, and like this is the size of what like a greater demon would have been. So like I'd never seen miniatures on the scale of what Age of Sigmar has now. Even when I got like the Iron Jaws Start Collecting box, which was what got me back into it.
Mhm.
The Gore Grunters were huge compared to what I'd seen before, and I think the first large miniature I ever did was Gordrak, the Maw Crusher Iron Jaws boss, and like the base size is like a dinner plate, and like it was large enough that I could sit it on my head easy. And I really needed a plan on how to sort of like tackle those things. I mean, what you probably don't see a lot of the time from my feeds is how long a miniature actually stays on the shelf before it actually gets to my painting desk.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll buy a miniature because I really like the look of it, or I want to play with it or something in one of the games. But for me to paint it, I need that little spark of inspiration to start, and I need to know what color scheme I'm going to paint it before I even begin.
So what took you away from miniature painting? And because you said that you only got back to it 6 years ago, what took you away, and then what brought you back to it?
Well, what took me away was university. I needed funds for university, and unfortunately, my collectibles were the only thing I could get rid of to get money, which meant, unfortunately, all of my Warhammer went. So, like my Epic 40k, my Gorka Morka, my Warhammer Quest, my original fantasy stuff, all gone, which was a bit heartbreaking to have to get rid of them, considering it included my original miniatures. But I was speaking to a friend like a few years ago, and I was like, "Oh, I really wish I hadn't got rid of those." And he was like, "You sold them to me." And I was like, "What?" And he agreed to sort of like give them me back. I mean, he did pay for them. He agreed to give them me back on the agreement that I paint his Dark Elf army for him.
No, there's always a catch.
I'm on sort of like a prisoner exchange program where I'll give him painted Dark Elves and he'll return my dwarves.
Do you meet on a bridge like they do in like the old Cold War films? Like you meet on a bridge, you leave a miniature halfway through, he goes up, takes, and then drops your miniature off.
Yeah. So I'm gradually getting my dwarfs back and my old orcs, and he's getting his Dark Elves painted at the same time. But yeah,
seems like a fair enough trade, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the memories and stuff, it's more sort of like the sentimental value than anything else that they're worth it for. But like, yeah, so university took me out of it for a while, and then what brought me back was I used to go to Liverpool quite regularly, and there's a store near one of the stations, and I passed that all the time. And what sort of like caught my eye was I was like, why are the fantasy miniatures on round bases? So I ended up going in and asking them and saying like, is Age of Sigmar like a new thing? Like, do they not do fantasy anymore? So I ended up having like a very, very long explanation as to what the Age of Sigmar was and where fantasy disappeared to. And then he was going through the different factions and stuff, and he went through them, and he was like, "Oh, and there's like Iron Jaws," and I was like, "Hang on a second, go back to Iron Jaws a second." I was like, "Are these Black Orcs?" And it's like, "Yeah, they're like an entire faction." I was like, "A faction of Black Orcs?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to start this now." Because the last thing that I had that I was really into was Orcs and Goblins. They were my last big army, and Grimgor and his Black Orcs, I think, were like an army of renown. You could have, as long as you had like Grimgor as your general, you could have so many units of Black Orcs, whereas usually you only had like one, I think, or a
Yeah.
limited number.
Yeah. I dabbled in fantasy a little bit, and I think you're right. Like there was when I think it was like sixth or seventh edition of fantasy, they did that, didn't they? And really went hell for leather on Grimgore, and I can't
Yeah,
remember. There was
I think
the
it
one in the
came out. It
Wyvern.
was what was it? I can't remember the name of it now. But the like Grudge of Drong and those little
Yeah.
expansion packs and Dogs of War and stuff like that. It was around about that period.
Mm. So you just focusing on your orcs for a second, because I'll be honest, if I am a little bit excited about fantasy coming back,
Yeah.
proper fantasy. What are you feeling about that then? Like I know at the moment the big things are the Bretonians, and were you sort of hoping they do new stuff for the orcs instead of just sticking what they've got on square bases, or?
Yeah, I hope so. Because if they still do them like how they did the models for like sixth, seventh edition, which I think were probably the best orc models they did, I'd be looking forward to some new ones, especially if they were slightly scaled up.
Yeah.
Because I think like when it got to like seventh and eighth edition, like Gorbad Ironclaw and stuff, he's a really, really good sized orc miniature. And I'm kind of looking forward to like something of that scale again. But I don't think I'm going to buy into the game. I'll probably buy some of the miniatures, but I don't see myself ever buying like an army or something like that for it. If I painted any of the classic stuff or any of the new ones, it would probably be for like display purposes or as like proxies for something in my AOS armies.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just going back to obviously you're a girl, right? So, do you notice a lot more girls getting into the hobby now? Do a lot of girls like reach out to you looking for tips and tricks through Instagram, or do you still get just a lot of sweaty guys trying to chat to you?
Well, I wouldn't say sweaty. Like I don't know them all that well, but like I do notice that like when I look at the demographic numbers and stuff, about 13%, something like that, are female, whereas the rest are male. And to be honest, I see that in the stores and I see that in the hobby leagues and stuff like that that I've been to. But considering I was the only one that I ever knew of back in the day. And now I'm seeing a lot more girls at like tournaments and in hobby spaces playing like Dungeons and Dragons, like Star Wars Shatterpoint, that type of stuff. I know it's not Warhammer, but it's getting out into like the hobby space, and it's pretty good to see them because, I mean, we all have experiences and stuff with people in the community and like just trying to wedge ourselves in there in the online and like what the responses and stuff like that have been. But it's just great to have somebody a little bit more closer that I can speak to about these types of things, and we can always just go super girly on stuff as well, which is stuff that I don't normally get to geek out on and whatnot.
I mean, it's so good seeing more girls getting into it because it is a very male dominated, but people like yourselves and Little People Painter and Rogue Hobbies, people like that spreading the love, and even like Warhammer TV now having like more girls like doing their painting tutorials as well. It definitely helps the demographic and shows it's not just geeky wee boys sitting in a room. Like it can be wee geeky girls with glasses and sitting in a room as well as compared to just boys.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I saw in one of the Games Workshop stores that when I just went in on the off chance just to pick up a couple of paints, there was they had a female member of staff, and there was two girls with them like wanting to learn how to play the game.
Yeah,
and it's like, this is so wholesome.
Yeah, and even if they don't pick up, there's
my local GW's got a female member of staff now, and it was just the one guy in there for the longest time. And it is, like I say, it's just lovely to see. She's bubbly, she chats to you. As soon as you walk in the door, she's running up to you like, "Hi, where are you going today?" It's like, fuck. and you just don't expect it because you just get the usual sort of. I don't want to sort of shoehorn all the blokes that work in Games Workshop. It's the same old beardy guy. Like, what, mate? What you here for? Have you seen the Space Marines?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you do get that like at some of them and stuff, but at most they seem to be pretty good,
yeah.
regardless of who it is that's coming in.
Now, I've been following you for a good bit of time as well, and you were up in my hometown last year, 2 years ago, up in Paisley, up in
Oh yeah,
Scotland. I think you
yeah,
were doing a tour of Scotland. And I did say to you at the time to jump down at the Paisley Abbey to see our famous alien gargoyle, which
yeah.
nobody realised was actually there for about 20 years until like it was actually discovered that somebody had actually made a gargoyle from the Alien franchise when they were replacing them. Uh, but see that hobby shop now, like all they do now is, because I think you were in the hobby shop in Paisley for a while near the
Um,
train
oh,
station.
I can't remember what it was called now. Something comic or
Something
uh,
like that. 'Cause it used to be a pub that I used to frequent back in the day when I was a little bit younger.
yeah. They've pretty
Uh,
much still got like the benches and stuff like that in there that
yeah,
look like it's
pretty
from a
much.
pub.
Yeah, it was definitely a horrendous pub at that. They don't sell Warhammer stuff anymore. I popped in there in July and stopped selling the Warhammer stuff. They just do the card games now. That's all they do now.
Yeah, yeah. We used to have a lot of people who went there to play the card games and stuff like that, and the new owner that took over decided that they just didn't want to deal with a lot of the stock that the previous owner did. So it was mostly just like pandering to Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. Now they weren't interested in any of the other games that were coming along, and it ended up driving out a lot of regulars.
Yeah, it was a bit pants because I always like to jump into the local hobby shop and like pick up something if I've got my car and taking it back to Ireland. Right, so what are you currently working on this now? Like what's your current 15 different projects that you're painting?
Oh yeah, it probably is about 15 different projects. The current one that I'm working on is trying to get Kragnos finished. Um, Again, he was one of these ones where like I played against him twice at my local place, and I decided, do you know what? Like seeing him painted, I kind of want to get mine done now. So I set off to do it, got partway through, and then lost interest in it, and then it just gathered dust. And then the other day, I just thought to myself, "No, I want to paint that." So that ended up coming out, and I started painting that. And to be honest, like with how busy I've been with a lot of card game stuff and holidays and just general visits and stuff that I've been doing over the weekends, it's been like 3 months since I honestly sat down and painted anything. So it's kind of nice to get Kragnos out and work on something big.
So when you say you're playing the car games and stuff at the moment, do you find you're sort of really spread across? You play like lots of different formats of things. You're not just limiting yourself to tabletop. You're on, like you say, like Yu-Gi-Oh stuff and various other sort of the bits and bobs, Magic, anything like that.
Um, like I don't think I'm quite as invested as I am in Warhammer. I still play Warhammer more than I do any of the card games. I literally
Mhm.
only play the card games and stuff when I come up to Scotland, because the group that I play with are all based in the in like the Glasgow area. So I'll be up there like maybe once a month to play. So like when I go to tournaments and stuff, I'm grossly underprepared. So the fact that I go like 50-50 on like wins and stuff most of the time is very lucky.
So did you study up in Glasgow then?
No, no, no. I just visit every so often to play card games and stuff.
And scrolling back through your feed earlier, I noticed obviously like you say you dabble in all sorts. You're not just restricting to your Warhammer. Right? Your Padme and Obi-Wan I bloody love. I think they're amazing. But you've had a little collection, I think, of bolt action or some historical bits on there. Do you find you dabble in that sort of stuff too, or?
I really wanted to, but like it's a very different style of painting, and I just haven't had the time to really sit down and try to learn how to paint in that style. I kind of thought like my painting style for Warhammer is kind of, I guess, cartoony a little bit. I use very bold colors. I'm not one for these intricate shades and stuff. I'm very much like edge highlight, block colors, recess shades, that type of thing. More like, you know, what you would get on like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would translate very well to the bolt action stuff. I kind of want to get something, try something a little bit more like historically accurate and learn how to do like the rusts and put all the mud and stuff onto it, so that it doesn't look as if it's right out of a cartoon book or something. Because the last thing you need is
hello
like
to the beard.
these...
Just saying hello to the beard, because the beard has said the beard is here. Hello,
Hi.
beard. Hope you're well.
Yeah, we've neglected
Another
the chat a bit tonight. I think
beard amongst us.
Simon's been in there ranting at me for not responding to him, and I think he pointed out that the Regiment of Renown thing for the Orcs was 2004. Well done for your good memory there, mate. So you bet not really a lot of questions coming in from anyone, which is absolutely fine because it means we chat more and you have to listen to us more. So, again, just focusing on your orcs for a second, your orc idol that you did with all your snotlings hanging off of
Oh
it.
yeah.
That to me looked absolutely amazing, and just sort of like I was studying it for so long today, just thinking that it was just so well done. It's such a static model. Doesn't really look like it's doing anything, but just by your positioning of a few little extra bits, you've made it look so dynamic. Was that something that you just sort of going back to your fantasy days and remembering like the old stuff like the snotling pump wagons and what was the fanatics with the balls and chains?
Yeah.
Was it just sort of plugging back into that sort of inspired you on it?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the stuff that I paint, I tend to try to put like a little bit of my own story and stuff to them. So my crawl boys and stuff, the way I've painted those, they have a reason behind it. The way that I've done my Iron Jaws war cry stuff, that's got a reason behind it. Same with like the trolls. And I got the Rogue Idol, and I'd assembled it, and it just looks like it, like you say, it's just got its arm in the air. It doesn't look like it's doing anything because, you know, it's just a bunch of rocks. And I wanted to make it look as if it had some sort of motion to it. So I added the Goblin Fanatics to it, because they're all like pulling something or getting pulled by something. And I thought, yeah, like if I position them, it looks as though the goblins are trying to like pull it in the direction that it needs to go. And then you've got the arm up in the air, but you've got the goblin that's being pulled up into the air by it to make it look like it's got motion. And all my orc stuff, I kind of wanted to try and do something unique with it, because that piece ended up in an army that I started through Warcry, and I built a brand new mega boss, a war chanter, a weird boy, and even a bunch of brutes that were all customized specifically for Warcry, and they all have their own little backstory and stuff. And when I started putting them into an army, I wanted them to have like a theme, and it just has its own little theme. Like the night goblins, I still keep them as, I still say the night goblin, like Gloomspite gets. The night goblins, they're sort of like in the old orcs and goblins army, the biggest orcs boss around the smallest green skins. So like some of the Iron Jaws have got little night goblins following them around, and when you want the giant rogue idol to go where it's supposed to go, give the hard job to the tiny goblin.
So we have one question already in the chat, and it's from Deltarax. What's your favourite Warhammer system or edition?
I never really got to play any of the old fantasy stuff. Literally, my only experience with it was me and a couple of friends with maybe like 500 points of an army with a movement tray and one of those tiny two-sided pieces of cardboard that told you
Yeah.
the rushed rules on it. I never had enough money to buy one of the big rule books, and I never had enough models to go and play in the store for them to teach me. The only games that I've sort of really played a lot of is Age of Sigmar and to some extent 40k. And I think maybe 8th edition 40k was probably my favorite. And 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar is also one of my favorites. But I do kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for Epic and Warcry as well.
You've just hit a nail on the head there. And I remember a long time ago, I think it was not long after 9th edition 40k came out. It was a story that you did where you were just sort of really angry about how the rules from 8th to 9th. And it's so weird what little things stick with you online, but you were proper ranting about it. And considering obviously like 8th to 9th, there was rule blow, there was all the codex madness and everything got ridiculous with it. Have you looked at 10th 40k? Have you sort of thought about it or?
No.
No.
I still played into 9th edition because Death Guard was one of the first codexes that came out. So I was like, great. Oh, look, we've got all these new rules. And then AdMech and Dark Eldar, Drukhari, whatever you want to call it, came out. And I played against somebody with AdMech. And I was like, how are these balanced? Like, how is yours come after mine? And yet mine seems outdated already. And then you saw the number of like the changes that they made to the rules, and then they made more, and then they made more, and I don't know how many changes Drukhari went through in 9th edition to try and balance them out, and they were still on top for the majority of it. I just felt like really hard done by with the new rules. It was really exciting at first to see, oh, the Space Marines and the Necrons and the Dark and the Death Guard. They've all got like these really thematic new rules and stuff for them, and then it just seemed like power creep, just completely, as if someone in a completely different department made the rules for these and said, "Oh, play these now, play these together." And they were like, well, this breaks all our toys. Why can't we have what you have? Maybe next edition.
Yeah. Maybe the person that made up the rules was the same person that made that horrendous sniper on stilts.
Are we going into that again?
No, we're not going to. I got quite a lot of hate off one particular person when I put up Games Workshop, are you taking the piss? And then one person was messaging from coming back to me saying, just think somebody poured their heart and their soul into that. Well, they shouldn't have bothered because it was getting so much hate throughout Instagram. I don't think I've actually seen one person on Instagram that actually tweeted anything positive about Sniper on stilts.
I mean,
it's a pretty horrendous model.
I've seen some people who, but I don't know whether or not they're just trying to play like devil's advocate, and they're trying to say it's good, you know, it's going to be really cool and stuff. You could modify it to look how you want it to look. You could take the stilts off it. You could have them like just as a regular sniper, like the Vindicare Assassin.
Yeah.
The Vindicare Assassin is just stood on a base. I mean, there's obviously like the Warhammer Plus version, where he's got his little thing.
Mini statue,
That can look weird when it moves around with him as well, because he's supposed to be a sneaky assassin.
Yeah. Why is the statue moving across the board? What's going on here?
But like, you know, I think it would probably still have looked really good if they'd have kept it on sort of like a retracted stilts, and you had that as an option to put him on like extended stilts or something.
I also think as well that his big appendage hanging like a dangleberry from between his legs I also really didn't. It's as though like somebody had a bit of. I think I put on my Instagram. It was as though they got a bunch of sprues and just put everything that they had in sprues together and went,
Yeah.
"Oh, this will work.
I
People will
I
buy
don't
it, and people will buy
understand
it."
the exhaust port on it.
Really?
That's the thing, because when the legs retract, isn't that just going to be like dragging on the ground?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But like I thought,
Maybe.
the whole point of a sniper is not, it's not their height, it's how well they manage to conceal
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. That was one of my things I sort of pointed out about it as well. It's like, hang on, you're the sneaky guy that's running from cover to cover, but you're on this massive pair of legs. But if you're into that, I suppose, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
just thinking about it, I mean, where you've been sort of dabbling on and off for ages, there's been some funky stuff over the years, hasn't there? Really?
oh yeah, like honestly, like my weirdest turnabout in terms of like my opinions on some models were the Lumineth. And when they first started previewing them, I was like, these are the worst models I've ever seen anywhere. These are awful. These are awful. These are the worst. And then I saw the special edition box set was going for pretty cheap, and I was like, all right, I'll go for those. And then I was looking at, and then the one model that I really, really hated, I was reading the lore for it, and I was like, oh my god, this model's amazing. I love this model. And then now I've got like everything for the Lumineth, and I'm like, yeah, they're cool. They're really cool.
So what you're saying,
just thinking
is
of
that
that as
on
well.
their heads and stuff, and the kangaroos and whatnot.
so what you're saying is that we'll all be Stilt Boy fanboys in 6 months' time.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. You'll be going away from these anti-grav things, and it'll be like tanks on stilts and stuff.
Oh man, don't. No, that's even funny. No, that's like, 'cause I'm relatively new to like Warhammer. Like I was just too poor to like even. I had Hero Quest and Space Crusade in the early '90s, and then I went and joined the military, and then I never touched Warhammer. And the reason I got into Warhammer, I've probably said this before, is I read a really, really bad Star Wars book, and I went, this book is fucking shit, because they ruined Boba Fett in a book, and I was like, I'm a big Boba Fett fan, and I was like, this is fucking bullshit. It's just absolute rubbish what they've done to Boba Fett, and I was raging, so I ended up reading the Horus Heresy books, and then that's how I came into Warhammer. So like, when you're all talking about like Luminous and 3rd edition and 5th edition, I'm just saying going, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I actually have no idea what you're talking about. But that's why it's so good having like Simon and Casey on, because they can fill in that gap where my knowledge is just severely lacking. But it's brilliant, like hearing like your passion for like these things that I have no idea ever existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like with the lore and stuff like that, it really sort of depends on like what armies you're into. I would probably say lore-wise, dwarfs, orcs, and probably the Lumineth are like the only ones that I'm really interested in. Like, I don't care what the Soul Blight did. I don't care what the background is between the Stormcast or the Skaven or anything like that. All I care about is like, what are the dwarfs doing under the mountains? What are the Lumineth doing with their magic? And what was the other one? I said, oh, the orcs and goblins. Who are they smashing up next?
Yeah.
What mayhem
So
are they causing?
on dwarfs, right? I take it you watched the Lord of the Rings Amazon TV show.
No.
Right.
I haven't
So
seen that.
did you watch it, Casey?
I heard bad things about it, didn't bother.
Right. So I was watching it now. I wouldn't have been a big Tolkien fan, but I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings films. And there's something that Brimley said, well, the dwarf, I think that's Brimley, said, oh, you'll be hard to distinguish a male dwarf from a female dwarf because our beards are just as bushy. So, and I think in like episode 2, they go to some like dwarf citadel, and I'm like, yes, man, we're going to see bearded women. This is going to be brilliant. And it was just like a normal looking lassie, and I was so so disappointed that I'd been waiting to see like a bearded dwarf woman, and she had no beard at all. Grimly lied to me, and I just stopped watching it after that. I was devastated, absolutely devastated.
Your expectations were too high. That's what the problem was.
Yeah, that's it. Anybody that wasn't satisfied with it, you had too bigger expectations.
Yeah, I wanted
So-
bearded women.
Like like you were just sort of
look
saying.
at the latest Fire Slayers unit that they've just done. They actually have Fire Slayers women in it, and I don't think they have beards. I'm pretty sure they just look like shield maidens, but they've got like really long braided hair instead.
Yeah. That was always, I think, if I remember right, like when they did the old Blood Bowl stuff and the female characters for the dwarves were in that, it was always like the long braided hair and everything that was coming off them. So with respect to like how you feel about lore stuff in the models that you do and you paint and stuff, I think like you sort of touched on the orcs especially, because all the way through old fantasy and even 40k, it is just, they're just out there for a rock. They don't care who they're fighting, what they're fighting, they're just up for it. What sticks out in your mind about character-wise and when you're reading into it, and like who's your favourite characters in that respect for them and picking your models, what sort of drives there?
I think sometimes it's how absurd the character is. Like Grimgor, he's just the biggest, hardest, angriest orc there ever was. The fact that he beat up Archeon in a fist fight is incredible. And it's like he just hated humans. So he just gets all of his orcs together, punches a bunch of other orcs to come along with him, and just goes and ransacks the place. And when you've got like characters from books and stuff as well, like Gotrek and Felix, you've got Skarsnik and Gobbler.
Yeah.
What's the other one's name? Thankwall and Bone Ripper.
Yep.
These absurd characters, but they're like iconic characters from those factions. Same with Teclis as well.
Yeah.
They're just far grander characters than any of the other ones that they build. I can't even remember the name of the new named character that they put into the Iron Jaws, because I'm just not interested. Yeah, he builds all of the Iron Jaws armor and stuff. Why? Like the whole thing was they beat things up, they rip the armor from it, they bang it onto themselves, and they go and bash something else. I don't. Who's the guy? Oh, I'm the guy who makes them slightly domed and puts them on the tops.
I was kind of hoping you'd say Grimgor. He was always one of my standouts from old fantasy, just like you say, just because he just would go out and just beat the shit out of things just for the laugh. And I remember when they released the model of him, and he's got the giant two-handed axe, and I think he was just holding a human's head in the other hand, wasn't he? It was just such a simple but like proper iconic pose, and I always regret never getting that. I had a Games Day Black Orc that they did years and years ago. I've still got it somewhere. I love it. It's my favourite orc they've ever done. He's just roaring, and he's got a giant two-handed axe over his head.
Well, if you like that, I did manage to get a hold of all like the collection of the limited edition Black Orcs. They do have names. There's the one with the Games Day one with the two-handed axe. Then there's another one that has like a huge banner.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one. I think Borgut something or other, who's got like this huge like horned helmet and two huge knives in his hands. And they were larger scale Black Orcs than the normal ones. And they're the ones that I sort of like look at because they've got character to the to the models, whereas the other ones, they're just like they all have like metal masks over their faces. They have no character or anything like that to them, and that's what distinguished all these characters in your army was their larger scale. They've got really dynamic poses, really cool poses and faces, and yeah, like having Grimgor at the head of all these armored orcs, like you say, with a severed head in his hand, like pointing the axe, like you're the one who's next.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna make you put your kilt.
One way of putting it.
Right, so like, I like to ask this question to everybody who like paints stuff. Like, what is the one model that you would like to be released or remade so you could paint it? There's a one model in your head that you'd like to have made or be remade, like with a more modern twist on it.
It would probably have to be. It's one of the dwarf ones, and it's the dwarf king on the throne with the big book of grudges.
Yes. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Where he's got like he's being. It's kind of like the old Slan priest,
Yeah.
where he's on this grand. I don't know what you'd call it, like a grand chair, with his big book of grudges, his crown with his 4 retainers and stuff carrying him into battle.
Yeah.
And I'd love a version of that remade, considering what they've done with like some of the Sisters of Battle and the new Cities of Sigmar one. I reckon it would look amazing.
It was. I remember. Yeah, I really remember it because it strikes out. It reminded me of. Oh, this is gonna sound weird. I don't know if anyone ever read the Asterix comics, but the village chief would get carried around on his shield, and it was just that as a mini, wasn't it? It was just perfect. It was that proper vibes of that. Just you could just imagine these poor sods lugging around this giant git on their shoulders from here to there, shouting, "I want to stab this," and you're just like, "Okay, move to the next place." Move to the next place. It was really, really cool for that. I remember.
I'm writing things down so we can moan about them later.
Yeah, you took too long to move.
The other question that we like to ask people is, do you think Fulgrim is a nonce?
Fulgrim? The
Emperor's Children,
Emperor's Children Primarch.
Slenetsky, yeah.
I honestly don't know enough about the 40k stuff to really know, especially like the 30k stuff as well, which is it's the Horus Heresy stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea about any of that stuff.
Same.
I never really got into 40k lore.
And the final question we like to ask people: female Space Marines, yes or no?
There were already female Space Marines.
Yeah.
Like in my army, I do have female Space Marines, which is my Imperial Fist, and like I don't have any scale heads for them or anything like that. So the female Space Marines have got their helmets on. The male Space Marines have got their helmets off.
Good spin.
Up there for thinking. But would you be opposed to, for like, say like, for example, one of the Lost Legions has been a female Space Marine Legion? Would you be down for that, or do you think?
I mean,
I
would be totally fine with it. Like, I like it if, for as much as I'm bored seeing Space Marines, I do really like the Primaris aesthetic. I've kind of got like a small army of Imperial Fists that I've just painted for because I like some of the Primaris. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's pretty much the same as like what you've got now with the Stormcast Eternals, which are your Age of Sigmar Space Marines, and they have female and male Sigmarines.
Yeah.
So there's one question Dunk's missed off as well, and 2 questions he's missed off. So when you're painting, you're sitting there, you're in your room. What you got on? Podcasts, you got Netflix. What you're listening to? What you're watching?
It's usually like YouTube videos and stuff. Like it'll be Let's Plays, or I'll be listening to music.
Okay, good job that you said music there, because do you like the Beatles, yes or no?
Some.
Some. Good answer. Some's better, Dunk. Don't be rubbing your eyes. Dunk hates the Beatles.
Oh, I
So
hate Beatles, man.
some's a good answer, because what Beatles songs do you hate? What aren't your favourite ones?
Well, the ones that I don't like are the ones that I don't really listen to. I know, like, I played the Beatles rock band and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff on there that I'd never even heard before. Um, but I think it's just sort of like the mainstream stuff, you know, the stuff that's on like the Beatles One album.
Yeah.
Things that are on there pretty much is like the majority of the stuff that I've heard. So like their older stuff or like their more obscure songs I probably haven't listened to really.
Cool.
Beatles. I hate the Beatles.
I had to say it, Dunk. You know, you look, you've gone instantly red by just the mere mention of them. So
I was bringing back the corona, that's what it is. It's just been a horrendous, it's been a horrendous week. And nah, I just, nah. Do you do much commission work at all? Like, would you be
Uh,
open to doing more commission work? Would you like, where do you see yourself in like 5 or 10 years with your painting? Like, would you like to make a living out of it?
whoa, these
um,
are a lot of questions.
I don't really know. I have tried doing commissions in the past, and as much as I enjoy the money, sometimes I don't enjoy painting the miniatures.
Yeah,
Like, I got commissioned to paint a load of Thousand Suns, and I don't like the models. And like, I
yeah,
must have painted 30, 40 rubric marines, and I was done by the third one. Um, and having to paint like 10 Terminators, and then you can see them on like my feed and stuff. They're on there. I've taken pictures of them, but I was bored by the end of it. The stuff that I'm more into doing is like individual pieces or like characters. So rather than painting a full army for somebody, like with the Padme and the Obi-Wan and like Galadriel that I painted, they're character models and they're stuff I've never painted before. So I'd be interested in painting that type of stuff, but not doing army things or anything like that.
cool.
I don't really
Different.
know whether I'd do it as a career or not.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a whole long story, like about my relationship with Instagram and stuff. And I left Instagram for about 3 months
Mm-hmm.
in March.
Mm,
I just got fed up. Um, I was getting too angry over too many things,
yeah.
and I wasn't having fun anymore with a lot of interactions that I was having, and I just deleted the app.
Yeah,
And then went
because
to like,
you
so go on.
were a bit unsure about coming on with us as well. Like, truth be told, like, I don't think you were. I think until you spoke to me, until I DM'd you privately, like, I don't think you. It didn't feel like you were too sure, like it was something that you wanted to do. But I think once we gave you like the reassurances that it was nothing seedy or sordid or going to belittle you, it was more about you and your journey and like, because when we started this podcast, like it was more about trying to get everybody from all over the hobbyverse to showcase themselves. So like, I do understand, like, as I say, like it did appear that you were a wee bit hesitant about coming on, but I'm 100% happy you did come on. Like
Yeah,
we've enjoyed having you on.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't anything to sort of like do with yourselves or anything like that. I
Mm-hmm.
was because I'd been out for a long period of time. I just didn't know what I really kind of like wanted to do with my Instagram anymore.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've been on here for I think 4 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Mhm.
Valentine's Day, I think next year is 5 years. Um, and in the first 2 years, like it went crazy. I went up to something like 8,000 or something like that in the first 2 years, and I was like, "Wow, there's a huge booming community and stuff like that." And then they changed the algorithm,
Yeah.
and it absolutely plateaued. And I think my highest was something like 9,600 and something. And since I stopped in March and to when I've come back now, it's dwindled off. Like I've lost something like maybe 180 followers and stuff like that, which doesn't sound a lot compared to like what I've still got on there. But it's the lack of growth that I don't see. And after the whole thing with like the algorithm changing, the change to like reels and what was popular on the on here, like I was seeing the same people over and over again in my DMs, responding to comments on posts, liking posts, and considering like I had 9,600 people, I was getting 200, 300 at most likes on a post. And I'm like, how are people not seeing this? I was using all the same hashtags as what I used to do. And like previously, I'd had a couple of things noticed by like Games Workshop. I'd seen loads of people like resharing my stuff. And some of the topics and stuff that I had talked about had ended up, going to other people who I didn't even know were following me. And now I just don't see any growth whatsoever.
Yeah.
I barely see new people. Nobody tends to ask me about, like, what are you doing next or anything like that. And it just seems like the bubble expanded, popped, and then that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because like you did help me when I first started painting. You're always very forthcoming and giving advice and just maybe just do this, or yeah, you're well, you're kind of on track. So like that's why I wanted to have you on, like, because you helped me when I first started it. You were always very open to help, and you always DM'd back, which was brilliant. Like, and so this is why we wanted to have you on, just to show our appreciation to yourself and helping us and our journey. Because I think Casey would probably still be drinking the paint, and so would I be. To be honest.
I mean, you say that. I'm halfway through this Rack Flesh, and it tastes quite good still. So
That's more the Rakarth flesh ends up turning into more cheese than anything else.
It's
it's
good.
got a bit fun.
Good on toast. That's good on toast.
But yeah, I mean, like, I really enjoyed like speaking to people and stuff over DMs. I mean, like I was saying, I ended up a lot of my interactions towards the end of like last year and early this year were just me ranting about things, and I don't know whether it was just because of like the mental place and stuff that I've been in, because like over the last few years and stuff, I've been to like a therapist a few times, and that's for like depression, anxiety, anger issues. But like it's just good to see people like reaching out, and all my knowledge is like I don't think I have anything unique to offer. So like I don't try to like paywall it or monetize it or anything like that, because number one, it's too much work for me, and like I have a job, I have things I do in my spare time on top of all of this, and it's just too much to try and get into that as well. So anybody that comes along and says, "Oh, how did you do that?" I'll tell them. Or if someone says, "Here's a picture of something, like I really want to try and make this look like this. How can I do that?" And then like, I can't remember. I think it's Burnt Aquila Painting. He was one of the ones that I spoke to like a couple of years ago, and he was asking me about how I got the shading on my Necron blades, and I helped him with that. And since then, like, he's run away with it. Like he managed to perfect it. He's gone on to like loads of other different colors on. I'm not saying it's all because of me, but like it's what gets your confidence up once you can see the results and stuff. even if you just ask some questions and stuff, it builds your confidence up to then go try other stuff as well.
Mhm.
And I'm all for trying to what's the word, inspire people.
Yeah.
Because the guy who is at one of the local games workshops, who I first entered my Gordrak into, the next golden demon thing that the lesser golden demon that they do in stars, he said rather than going for sort of like the best painted, he said he wanted something inspiring. He wanted something so that when you look at it, you go, "Wow, look at that!" And
Yeah.
I said to it, like, I actually messaged him. I said, that is exactly what I try to go for with like some of the crazy paint jobs and stuff that I've got, or like some of the conversions that I do, because I want somebody else to feel the way that I did when I saw the models.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, how did they paint that?
Mhm.
I want to paint that. And if anybody says I want to pick up a paintbrush after seeing some of the stuff that I've painted, great, awesome, I've done my job. My time is over. I passed the torch.
No, that's brilliant, and I think that's a lot of what we like hearing on here, especially when we are asking these questions to people. Like, there are guys out there that just do it for the love of it, and more than enough of people are just friendly to chat to, and you can ask questions and they'll come back to you. Big count, small account, whatever. Everyone's got something to give, haven't they? At the end of the day, so
Even when we're trying to set people up to come on here, like I don't think any of us thought that it would be not as popular, but I don't think we would have got as many people on as we have. Like we're totally booked up through to December. We're now starting to take bookings now in January. January is more or less filled up, and then we've managed to get like Duncan Rhodes, Graham McNeil, Peachy coming on. Like
yeah,
I don't think any of us thought that this would happen. Just with like three idiots who can't paint. Oh, two idiots who can't paint, and
No,
Simon.
it's three with me still.
Simon, who's apparently worked for every single company
yeah,
you can think of, Games Workshop, Beck 365, the police. Like he's been about a bit.
yes.
He has been about a bit, even though he's not old. But like,
Don't stop.
we're starting that again. He doesn't like the age thing. But like, we just love this community, like, and that's why we tried to set this up, was to just get people a wee bit of recognition, to get the followers. There's so many talented people
Yeah,
out there that only have maybe 150 followers, 200 followers, that should have more followers, and then you get people that maybe just post every single day reels and stuff, and they're not that good, and they've got maybe 15,000 followers, and that's good for them. But we just want to kind of show a bit of love to the people that have helped us over the years. The likes of yourselves, Inferno, Deltrarax, Mike Moans, the Nymph, all these people that have helped us, gave us their time. Like you're doing this now, you're still giving us your time.
yeah,
You could have quite easily turned and said, "Well, give me 50 quid," or "No, I'm not doing it." You know what I mean? And that'd have been fine. But you're taking your time off after a full day's work, I imagine, and speaking to a Scottish idiot and a guy from London. Do you know what I mean? It's brilliant. Like we absolutely love it. Like
Well, that's it. I mean, like speaking to people who are passionate about like the war games or the hobby or anything like that is just what I enjoy doing. Like I don't like talking to some of the salty people, which is why I don't tend to go down that road. But it's where I sort of like get my passion, and I get ideas and stuff like that by like story ideas of like talking to people or playing games with people who are really invested in like their armies. And we just like I've got a great unclean one who's ended up being called Slim Jim, and he enjoys hats. And the only reason for that was because I had a bunch of tokens and stuff, and he had a bunch of buffs, and they just all started stacking on top of his head. And like some people then started like asking me like, "Oh, have you brought your army with Slim Jim and stuff like that again?" Um, so like yeah, and other people like end up wanting to know you a little bit more because you've got that kind of positive energy and you're not
Yeah.
elitist or anything like that. And I think that's what helps people with, asking you questions when they can see that there's no like ego behind anything.
Well, I think speaking to you, and I think Casey would agree with me here, but your passion for your hobby is probably one of the best that we've had on. Like you can just see in your facial expressions, and you're just so you do love a bit of Black Hawk.
Oh yeah.
What you've yeah, you know what I mean. Like, love a bit of Black Hawk. Like your passion for your hobby it just oozes out you over your painting and also over this call as well. And it's been amazing having you on. Like
Yeah,
It's been absolutely brilliant.
if you just like if you just judge me by like my posts and stuff like that, I'm probably sort of like a bit weird and a very very grumpy person. But like when you actually talk to me in person, it's like, who's this person who posts on your Instagram?
Yeah, see, people think
Delta,
the opposite about me, so that's fine.
Delta Act says the three of us have made doing Black Templar transfers bearable.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate that.
I've never done a transfer, and I never will do a transfer. They seem horrendous.
It's hard. I didn't start doing transfers until I tried Space Marines, but like I don't know what was going on in Games Workshop's minds when they thought, hey, let's give them these tiny transfers that are flat and tell them to put them on a curved surface.
I hated that. I've always hated that. Just trying it when I was younger and thinking, oh, look, I've just painted my first Ultramarine. It's absolutely dog shit. I've used gold and yellow, which is the worst colour in the world. So what I'm now going to do is put a transfer on it, which is going to crack and bubble and bend all over the fucking place. Oh, arseholes. That's my opinion of them.
That's fine. I mean, I've got them here, like right next to me, like the decal stuff. Like these really really helped when putting them on. But yeah, it's still very very time consuming in the transfers. You don't get enough for like the number of models that you have. Yeah, like that, like Chill Miniatures just put there. It makes you actually want to try freehand. And that was how my really, really old Space Marines went, trying to get that black circle with the little Imperial Fist logo in there.
Yeah.
I can barely write. I'm not going to even try freehand.
Fair enough. That's been absolutely brilliant. I think we usually try and keep this stuff to an hour, and we have tickled slightly over, but it's been absolutely lovely to chat to you. Thank you very much again for coming on. I think I've sent you a couple of DMs here and there. We've chatted here and there about various bits. So to actually sit down and chat face to face, it just makes this worth it. And it's been really good and a really nice chat. So thank you very much for coming on.
No,
and I also want to say as well, thanks for coming on. We, as Penn just said, we do appreciate it. And if we're still doing this and you're happy enough to come back on, we would love to have you back on if you're free and you want to come back on, because it was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy to do it. If there's any sort of like topics you want me to go through like beforehand, or if there's any just sort of like hangouts or anything, because I've got so much stuff to just either assemble or paint or anything like that it'd be easy just to do that type of thing. I've kind of worked with a couple of my friends to try and do like videos for their YouTube channels and stuff like that, and I've enjoyed it. But like I said, it's probably not going to be like the thing that I try to do with my hobby long term. But I just enjoy being around other people who enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Make it an Orc and Goblin special. That's what we should do.
Black Orc and Goblin special starring SJ Paint.
And then through it, try to get like the people who are going through it to add to the lore, or to try and put ideas together as to how a converted miniature for this character is going to go together.
Just even something like that. That's a brilliant idea.
Not allowed to have stilts.
No stilts.
No stilts. Unless it's a snotling.
Yeah. No stilts. No stilts. Or tanks with stilts.
Just no tank. Dunk hates
No
tanks.
I always get
Cool.
put against tanks in any painting competition. I always get knocked out with tanks. I hate tanks. That's why.
Yeah, I when I back when I played with like my Death Guard and stuff, I think towards the end of seventh, going into eighth, early eighth, something like that. Oh no, it was going into ninth when they took away like the core or the ability for anybody to issue commands or give buffs to freaking annihilator tanks or whatever they were called. You know, the Space Marine ones that had like a giant laser blaster on the top of it and could just shoot twice, re-rolling all the hits, re-rolling to wounds, all that type of stuff. And I lost half my army to two of those in turn one. And I was like, yes, fun game.
Yeah, I can see how that be. Yeah, fuck tanks. Cool. Right, and I think on that, my sweary bombshell, I think we'll call it a night there. Thank you very much again for coming on. Brilliant having you. Dunk, any last words from you, mate?
Thanks to Boltstorm Gaming, as always, for being our sponsors. And again, thanks to SJ Gaming, SJ Paintswear, for coming on. Absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks, pal.
It's been great. It's been great.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thanks for everyone for joining in the chat. Chat to you all soon. Toodaloo.
Au revoir.